many of our citizens are not included, prepared, or able to reach their full potential in the workforce. The drive for diversity, equity, and inclusion is directly linked to the region's economic growth. Using 7 measures of prosperity, MMAC ranked Milwaukee against 20 peer metros. And what you see here is that Milwaukee has the largest gap in prosperity between its white population and its African American and Hispanic Latino populations. To help close these gaps, MMAC launched an employer-led effort to make Milwaukee a region of choice for all, or ROC for short. A special thank you to the task force that has been guiding these efforts. And from its inception 2 years ago, launched in the All Member Meeting in November of 2019, the ROC participation grew by 94% to 120 organizations that employ more than 119,000 people in the region. ROC companies pledged collectively to increase African American and Hispanic Latino employment and representation and management over a 5-year period. And to reach these goals, employers committed to sharing best practices, meeting CEO to mark the progress, and to publicly report their collective results, as we have shared earlier today with media, and I'm sure we'll talk about that afterwards as well. And here, for the first time publicly, are those results. Despite the 1% decline in total employment within the ROC collective, African American and Hispanic Latino employment still rose 6.2% from 2019. And to reach our goal by 2023, Black and brown talent would eventually make up 18.1% of the company's workforce. So the ROC companies are on track to achieve the goal we set 2 years ago, 3 years from now. Total management employment increased by 6.1%. During the same time period, African American and Hispanic Latino management employment rose by 23% in the ROC companies. To reach our 2023 goal, Black and brown talent would eventually make up 8.6% of the company's management, and the ROC companies are on pace to exceed this goal. So let's recognize these participating organizations, and of course, any business of any size is welcome to join the ROC Collective at any time. The more, the better we can influence this evolution and the representation in our communities. And my experience leading ManpowerGroup tells me unequivocally that employers who cultivate an environment where all employees can bring their full selves to work will have the greatest long-term business success. The region of choice is not a moment, it is a movement committed to producing a measurable impact. 92% of respondents to a recent culture survey said they believe their employer has made a greater commitment to equity and inclusion over the past 2 years. We can be pleased with our progress so far, but not satisfied. We have a lot more work to do. To learn more, we initiated a groundbreaking survey of management employees in our ROC companies. And here, to share the insights from that survey, are Julie Granger and Corry Biddle. And they're supposed to walk out right now.
Thank you, Jonas. We received more than 2,000 management responses to this survey, and they answered 2 critical questions. Would you recommend your company as a place to work, and would you recommend Metro Milwaukee as a place to live? Their responses were scored on a scale from 1 to 10 using a measurement called the Net Promoter Score. Those who rate their experience a 9 or 10 are considered promoters or enthusiastic supporters. Those giving a rating between 1 and 6 are detractors. The 7 and 8s are regarded as passive. The score is then calculated by setting aside the passives, subtracting the detractors from the promoters. So, for example, if 60% are promoters and 20% are detractors, the score is 40. Any rating above 0 is considered acceptable, but below 0 is concerning. In our survey, the responses reflected positively on the companies, with a total average score of 61. As you can see here, the ratings did vary widely by race. The rating from white managers was 69, while it was 46 from Hispanic and Latino managers, and 21 from African American managers. Respondents had the option to explain their ratings, and here are just a couple of representative comments.
This is far and away the best company I've worked for, and it has demonstrated that it truly values its employees. It's a great place to work with a positive culture, engaging projects, and community impact.
But not all the reviews were glowing.
The volume and pace are challenging right now, and for talent of color, we lack a strong, inclusive culture. Finding other professionals who share a common background is an issue. I think it's really great if you're white, and even better if you're a white man.
When asked what would improve equity and inclusion at their companies, respondents offered a range of ideas, such as providing anti-bias training beyond management and throughout the entire company, increasing the diversity of candidate pools and the search committees, and holding ongoing open dialogue sessions with top leaders. Informed by this feedback, here's what we're doing to support this work. We're creating a playbook for beginning, accelerating, and advancing DE&I strategies in companies of all sizes.
We're also forming a recruiter roundtable to help companies attract diverse talent from outside the region and hire and retain talent from within the region.
We're advocating for changes that reduce barriers to employment.
And we're better connecting Black and brown talent throughout Metro Milwaukee as a community and to each other, working with the Hispanic professionals of Greater Milwaukee. We Exist, the African American Leadership Alliance, which is an organization that teams Black professionals into corporations to work on projects together. We also applied the Net Promoter Score to our second question: would you recommend Milwaukee as a place to live? We believe this is the first time the Net Promoter Score has been used to rate a region, making it difficult to draw comparisons between other cities in Milwaukee. The average Net Promoter Score for Metro Milwaukee from all respondents was positive 16. Now for us, the most important takeaway was the vast difference in ratings by race. Metro Milwaukee's rating among white managers was 23, while it was 6 for Hispanic and Latino, and negative 37 for African American managers. Respondents gave high marks to Metro Milwaukee's restaurants, sports, entertainment, vibrant downtown, and natural beauty. The biggest negatives were crime, racial segregation, income inequality, and political divides. Our ability to create a welcoming and inclusive community directly affects Milwaukee's capacity to attract and retain talent.
We plan to convene local and state elected leaders to share these findings and identify actions we can take together to improve our assets and address those liabilities. Thank you.
Well done, ladies. Thank you, Julie and Corry Joe. These findings make it clear that we need to do more to sustain this kind of progress. If you think about this, there are 114,000 kids in the city of Milwaukee, students, that are publicly funded. But of those high school graduates, only 10% of African American students and only 13% of Hispanic and Latino students will graduate from a 2- or 4-year institution 6 years after they graduate from high school. Now contrast that against the fact that 1 out of every 3 jobs in Milwaukee requires a college degree, and 60% require at least a post-secondary education. Closing this education gap has been a long-term goal of MMAC's. And over the next 5 years, we are focused on helping high-quality schools expand their capacity to serve 5,000 more students across MPS, across public charter schools, and across schools in the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program. To achieve this, we will continue to advocate for funding parity across all these school options. And until that is achieved, we will help raise the money necessary to accelerate these quality schools and their expansions. Now, to share strategies about how we're going to grow more diverse businesses in this community, please welcome in joining Ugo Nwagbaracha, President of Diamond Disc International, an MMAC board member and chair of the Business Council. Ugo?
Go big or go.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim. Who you do business with is just as important as who you hire. Equitable business development offers shared value for corporations, the economy, and the community. And companies that focus heavily on diversifying their supply chain realize 133% ROI, greater ROI. With the help of a Harvard MBA fellow, we did a deep dive into our minority business ecosystem this past summer. We conducted interviews and surveys that engaged 125 MMAC members, Black and brown business owners, and support partners. Here's what we found. There's about 1,200 Black and brown-owned companies across many industries that offer value and drive innovation. Several large employers have formal supplier diversity programs. Some of these supplier diversity programs are nationally recognized, and there are lessons to be learned from their experience. Any organization, no matter the size, can make a concerted effort to do more business with diverse firms. So how do we fuel more business, more success? First of all, build a larger network. Intentionality in building relationships with Black, brown companies is essential. We hear that word a lot, intentionality. Intentional. Let's go a step further now. Let's be purposeful in 2022. Just don't have good intentions. Let's be purposeful in our actions. Make the process more transparent. We all know procurement is complicated, and diverse suppliers often face extra challenges. So let's counter the assumptions that Black and brown businesses are not as prepared as their white counterparts. For business diversity to work, corporate leaders must make it a priority. So our members are ready to act. MMAC is ready to act. And the recommendations include the following: connecting diverse-owned businesses and their products and services to the broader business community, working with the Business Council, working with the Hispanic Collaborative, and other ethnically diverse organizations. Building CEO commitment. We all know it starts at the top. So let's build CEO commitment to supplier diversity at more companies. And last but not least, we all know you measure what's important to us. So let's measure it, setting specific metrics to measure progress in the coming years. Thank you for your time.
Well delivered, my friend. Thank you, Ugo. I want to thank you and Marjorie Rucker for the important work that you do leading the Business Council. And I also want to make note of the partnership that we have with the Hispanic Collaborative and their efforts to grow Hispanic businesses. In particular, Nancy Hernandez and Chair Rolando Rodriguez, who's the CEO of Marcus Theaters. The Hispanic Collaborative represents the fastest growing segment of our community. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Scott Mayer, Chairman and CEO of QPS Employment Group, who is also an MMAC board member. Scott?
Thank you, Tim. I want to start and take a minute just to acknowledge Jonas. He gave his last 2 years to us, and not easy as chairman leading in a pandemic, and he did a wonderful job. And a quick story about him. So when the pandemic first started, I'm losing my mind because all of the uncertainty. And he actually took the time, he's running a $20 billion a year business, and took the time and actually spoke to me and helped guide me through with the direction. Now, everything he told me basically was wrong, but it was the point. It was the point that he took the time and was really a gentleman, so thank you. And I also want to shout out to Tim Sheehy. Next year marks his 30th anniversary of being involved. Can we give him a hand? 30 years of running MMAC. Congratulations, Timmy. So, real quick, I'm with QPS. We are founded in 1985. We've been employee-owned since last year. We do about $250 million a year in sales. We've got about 400 people work for us. We have about 7,000 people that work for us out on assignment at any one given day. We pay about 35,000 people a year in 7 states in about 60 offices. But the biggest point I want to share with you is we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 open jobs right now as we speak. So giving you a little feedback on the crazy times, obviously we're all facing the same issues. Supply chain has sort of fallen apart. Labor shortage like never before. Interesting, at QPS, our pay rates are up 17% this year, so inflation, it's kind of going through the roof. Our average pay rate for general labor, just entry-level production, is between $15 and $20 an hour, so it's really shot up. And we've got approximately 6 million people in the country looking for work, but statistically, we have over 10 million job openings right now, many of which we're having a hard time filling, obviously. So if you take those 6 million people, and if they fit into something perfectly, we're still short by 4 million. So what are we going to do about it? First of all, we got to stop the government handouts. We're not encouraging people to go to work when we keep giving and giving and giving. So we need to actually encourage people to get to work. We need to have better control at the borders. We need to have controlled entry where we bring people in. If we don't have the people, it's kind of easy math. We've got to find them from somewhere. But the biggest thing that I challenge you on today is the position where we're in, where we only have 61.6% of people working that should be working. The workforce participation rate, it's been as high as almost 70%, it's been as low as 60%. Think about that, that's almost 40% of people that are somehow sitting on the sidelines. We have got to find a way to engage these people and get them back working. And if we can do that, I really think that we can attack this and deal with the supply chain issues as well as the labor shortage if we can get these people. So my time's up, but you know how to reach me if you want to talk more about this, and I appreciate everything. Have a great night. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Scott. Bold message. Thank you, Scott. You know, advancing the region's talent and improving equity are key growth